Looks like it's going to be a draw. Looks like it's heading for a draw. Maguire down the line. Noah. Oh! Ryan Hall! Ryan Hall scores the lead and wins the league leading
Hi everybody and welcome to the Lot Pod, the Leeds Rhinos Lot 17A podcast, kindly sponsored by ACDB, who are a branding and creative design agency based in Farsley, Leeds. They create standout brands, so if any companies out there need a new brand, a brand refresh, a new logo, just get in touch with ACDB. Thanks as always to them for sponsoring us. This is a very special edition of the Lot Pod. We have another special guest. We've been so lucky recently with having Barry and Yestin and all the other guests that we've had on. We've got another one. Joining me for this one, as always, is Reese. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I'm looking forward to effective. Can we count this as the treble of Rhinos players? So
this is
it. Wheelchair
this is
team.
the last one. Yeah, this is the last. This is the last tick in the box. I'm absolutely buzzing for this one, to be honest. Who is our special guest, Reese?
So it's Danika Priim. So part of the Bulls team that won the inaugural Women's Super League in 2017.
17.
And then also part of the Rhinos side that won the Challenge Cup back-to-back in 2018 and 19, and also winning the grand final in 2019. Former England international, but you'll now see her on Super League show and Channel 4. So I will bring her in. Evening, Danika.
I think that's the greatest intro I've ever had in my life. Thank you.
Well, if you want to give Channel 4 my number or anything, that's fine.
Oh, yeah. It's not exclusive to Channel 4, by the way, for anyone's listening.
Yeah.
Available for all freelance work?
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. And you guys?
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah, buzzing to have you on. As like Reese said, we've had Ewan from the wheelchair side. We've had ex-players like Barry, as you know well, and Yestin Harris and Francis Cummins, etc. So you're kind of the last tick in the box for us. So
just
it's
a few big
deal.
names there.
Yeah, we're not doing bad, to be honest. Not doing bad at all. Yeah. So thanks for coming on. Reese is going to kind of start with us and go through your career. So I'll pass it over to Reese.
So obviously you're from Leeds, aren't you?
I am born and bred.
Yeah, good. Right, good start. My first sort of question really is, how did the rugby journey start with yourself? You know, did you go watch the Rhinos when you were younger? Did you find rugby at school? Like, how did rugby sort of come into your life?
Bit of a curveball, really. Played when I was in primary school. Year 5 and year 6, 10, 11 years old. And then there wasn't really anything for my age group because I'm a little bit older than the average generation of women's rugby players now. So I went on to dance, and I was professionally trained as a classical dancer.
Wow.
And then
I've got that on my questions, actually. You've done that already.
Yeah, curveball. It's my curveball. And then went to uni, thought I want to try something new, so joined rugby union because that was the only real rugby that was around, because I went to York Uni at first, and then Leeds Met. Stuck it back home again, brought it home. And then was playing rugby union for the uni. Went to Twickenham 3 times in the final. Absolutely loved it.
Wow.
Went up playing for Yorkshire, captained Yorkshire the following season. I went to North of England and then was playing for West Park, Bramhope.
I've got a bone to pick about that.
Oh,
I used to play for Yarnbury.
don't admit that to people.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
You're cute.
West Park.
Cute. That's cute.
To be fair, West Park are probably one of the leading rugby union sides for women, so I will give them that. But Yarnbury's got a women's team now, and they
got a few good names. A few good names came out of there. But February 15, I got a phone call from Chris Chapman, who was the England coach, the league coach at the time. He said, "Do you fancy playing rugby league?" I was a rah-rah, wasn't I? So I was a bit like, ugh, what do you mean playing rugby league? That'd be so ridiculous. Anyway, he was like, yeah, I've been looking at, I've been watching you for the past few years, thought about you in 13, but then I snapped my ankle and had my ankle reconstructed. And he was like, yeah, we're going to the World Cup in 2017. It's in Australia. I was like, sign me up. As fickle
Where do I
as,
sign?
Yeah, literally as fickle as it sounds. I was like, won over by Australia. Signed to play for Stanley. And then made my England debut in the June. So it was pretty swift.
Wow.
And then Yeah. And then kept
So you
on the
didn't play
pathway.
rugby then from the age of 10 until you went to university?
No, I literally played for 2 years. Well, 2 school years, and then started again when I was 20, probably when I was like 26, 27.
So did that feel like you were sort of learning the game new almost again, obviously? But did you feel like you were starting the game again in that way? Or because it's quite interesting, like now, because the game is obviously progressed much more, and obviously we've got much more women's junior sides. Girls can play obviously from that age when you started, but obviously for yourself there wasn't that. I'm guessing there wasn't that ability to do so.
I grew up with 3 brothers, and we used to go to the South Stand. I remember when I was in high school, a season ticket for a child was 10 quid.
Yeah, what?
So I used to sit on the Western Terrace on that little brick wall at the front. Or if we were feeling a little bit brave, we'd go into the South Stand, but we'd always sit on that red brick wall at the front, try and get right at the front. I remember one day going with my older brother, who is 4 years older than me. And I was like, oh, I'd love to play rugby on there. And he was like, oh, no, you won't. And my brother we were always competitive, but he was like, oh, you won't. And he was like, it's because you're a girl. You end of story. You'll never play at Headingley because you're a girl. And that was like the 96, 97 era, probably when they started just being Rhinos. And there was like this big rebranding, and it was more exciting, and there was more fan stuff and family stuff to do. And it was our Friday night, as kids at school, it was our Friday night entertainment. We'd all get a £10. Well, some of them would jump over the fence at the back of the Western Terrace.
Yes.
You know. But I remember that's what the day was like. And discrimination wasn't really a thing. Like, I didn't think, oh, that's unfair because I'm a girl. It was just that's the done thing. Like, it wasn't like he was being tight because I was a girl and I'd never do it. Rugby league for women, I never really knew of it. So going to uni and my brother's always played rugby union as well. Like my always brother Carl, he played both codes. But yeah, rugby union just seemed the easiest thing. So I never even thought to look into it. I just enjoyed, like, I wrestled with 3 brothers. I enjoyed wrestling with other people. I'm not actually very skillful at rugby. I'm not very fast. I'm not very fit. I just enjoy a scuffle.
I was going to ask if you your classical training as a ballet dancer, did that not help you? Or was that what?
Twinkle toes.
Well, yeah, you'd think so. Honestly, the England coach, Chris Chapman, at the time, he used to be like, I don't understand why you can't just move. You've been a dancer. I was like, because I'm pounding myself like full pelt at somebody. The last thing I'm going to think to is, like, oh, wait a minute, I'll pirouette in the middle of the field. And he always just
Brad Dwyer does that, to be fair.
Yeah, Brad Dwyer's quite good at it.
I reckon Brad Dwyer's about 75% my body weight too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The kid's about 5'7". Yeah, so I was quicker on my feet in terms of I could get up quicker than a general prop, or I could move around a bit quicker, but would never use it to my advantage. I run straight and I run hard.
Yeah.
When I catch it, if I catch it.
So what position were you in Union then before you swapped over to Stanley?
I was 8. I was playing 8, so back row.
Right.
So essentially the 13, for those who don't know. But so I was a bit more ball handly, but that's just because I was playing both codes at the same time. So I was going back to back for about 2 seasons of playing rugby. I was probably the fittest I've ever been. I wouldn't say, but rugby union was definitely more social than rugby league turned out to be.
Did you find it difficult to make that switch from union to league in the play styles, or did you find it quite
I'm really
easy?
grateful. I'm grateful I did it that way, because I think to do it from league to union with all the rules, I would have struggled. I think I would consider myself relatively intelligent, so I reckon I would have been all right, but definitely it was easier rules-wise to switch from union to league.
Yeah.
And it was more my style anyway, because I was running in union, making a good break, getting tackled, and then you have to release the ball straight away. Whereas in league, I was like, oh, I can do this. I can make yards and I can keep the ball. So
and keep all right,
yeah. And as a forward, like I'm never one to glorify my job role. It's catch and run, isn't it?
Yeah.
I actually didn't really learn much about the 40-20s and genuinely about all the rules until I started doing like the co-comment and stuff, and I was like, oh, probably should. I knew them, but I didn't know them.
Should read up a bit more about this.
Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't really admit that, should I?
Well, ironically, they've brought that into union now, haven't they? Because they've got the 50-22 rule now.
22.
Yeah, but yeah, it was much. I think that's the best way to convert.
Well, we had, as I mentioned earlier, we had Yestin Harris on this podcast about 2 weeks ago, and we asked him the same question, but he did it the opposite way.
Yeah.
Obviously, he went from league to union, and I kind of asked him, like, how did you find that transition? And he said it probably took me like 18 months to really find my feet and, you know, be understanding of it all and kind of get acclimatized to it, which I thought was just unbelievable, because you just think that you can kind of just mold, because you've kind of played one, you can drop into the other, but obviously it's a lot more difficult than people kind of think in the first instance.
Because I've always been a rugby league fan and I've always been a Leeds Rhinos fan. I think that watching it must have, as much as I probably didn't think it at the time, it must have helped massively. Because you don't really, I don't really watch much Union. And I don't think it's as televised, well, it probably is, but at the time, like, I'm a proper Leeds Yorkshire girl. Union was never on the TV. Do you know what I mean? And we never went to Union games or anything like that. So literally the first real taste out of Union was, I knew my brother played it, but apart from that, it was me just playing. And then when I started playing, I got more involved and started to watch it a bit more. But no, rugby league was always on the telly.
So you moved from Stanley to Bulls, obviously because Leeds Rhinos weren't available at that time. That's right, isn't it? Just making sure you didn't choose Bulls over Rhinos at that point. But that was obviously the first year for the Women's Super League. But there was only four teams in that league that year?
Essentially, a bit like they've done this year. There were more, but they had an upper and a bottom tier. So it was Bradford, Thatto Heath, which was then. Castleford had come into it, I think. Featherstone Rovers, who were still... Because Featherstone and Thatto used to be like the standout teams, really. So, that was kind of it. And I joined... I'd love Stanley. I love my time at Stanley, but I got made captain there. But they were playing me at like half and then centres and stuff. And because I was an 80-minute prop at the time, which obviously in a more professional game, props don't play 80 minutes.
No.
So it was kind of one of those things where do I enjoy playing 80 minutes anyway as long as I'm on the field, or do I try my force my way into a World Cup by actually getting good at that one position and actually doing what I should do? Because what was it, 20, 25 minutes and you rotate off again. So I had to make that decision to move. As reluctant as I was, I didn't want to move to Bulls, but it was the closest team that were in that upper kind of league, and I'd get exactly what I needed from it. So it was kind of not a means to an end, because I absolutely loved my time and the girls there were wicked, but it was to get into the World Cup squad for sure.
So now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is Wikipedia that I'm looking at in terms of doing my research. But you missed the Challenge Cup final, didn't you, because of injury that year?
Yeah.
And then, according to this Wikipedia page, I don't know if you've written it or someone else has, but you were asked not to play the Super League Grand Final because of the World Cup.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, yeah. So basically, that was 2017. We'd gone to a tour in France for England, and I'd got my first starting shirt for England. Played 2 games. At the end of the second game, I'd probably played the best game of rugby I've ever played in my whole entire life. Wow. It was like 30 odd degrees. It kept me on for the full second half. So I played a 40-minute second half plus probably 15, 20 minutes in the first half. And I just came out for the first ever time, probably the last time as well. And I came off and I was on top of the world. And he said, you carry on playing the rest of the season like that, without a doubt, you'll be on the plane to Sydney. And a week later, he came and used to do satellite sessions around all the clubs to make sure that all of the England girls, and then he also pick up new talent as well. Like he would go to union clubs, we wanted the biggest pool possible to take to the World Cup.
Of course, yeah.
And he were doing a tackle tech, and I'm notoriously bad for being tackled, and it often takes 4 girls to get me down. So he was like, I don't want this in the World Cup. We've got PNG, we've got New Zealand. If we can get Danika down with 2 or 3 of us with good tech, we can get anybody down. Last tackle of the last minute of the session. And I tore my ACL. And I remember I was really lucky. I mean, I say I was lucky, but I wasn't. But I was really fortunate because I went to the hospital that night, got the knee. That was a Wednesday night. Got the knee specialist on the Tuesday, and for some reason, the surgeon was doing the kind of, which it never normally is. It's normally the nurses or whatever. I remember sitting there and I'd gone in my England kit to be like, maybe it'll help. And he sat there and was like, right, what's the crack? And I was like, I need to be in a World Cup in a few weeks. And I'm not emotional. And he literally said, take this, go down. And then I signed up for my operation.
Wow.
Yeah, no MRI or anything. And honestly, I don't know who was looking out for me that day, but that's not how the NHS works. But
no.
And he put on top of my important special consideration England Rugby League play. And I was like, I photocopy this.
Keep this.
We were still quite, I paid £300 to play for my first tour for England. So we were still quite, we were still quite minor. And the day, it still put me for an MRI, but the day that I went for my operation was the day I got my MRI results. And he was like, I'm going to go in. if I can sew you back together, I will. But the chances are you'll come out in a knee brace and you're not going. And I was like, cheers, pal.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I went in 14 weeks the day before I flew for the World Cup. And he came out and he said, I've sewn it back together. You've got 6 weeks to prove that you can cycle and rotate it. And then I turned into a psycho. And for the next 14 weeks, I missed weddings, I missed christenings, I didn't go out, I didn't drink. I ate chicken and rice, like the cliche thing, like Rocky type of style. I went absolutely psycho for 14 weeks and made it on a plane. So, but yeah, I had to really, I had to manage my time, and it got to and I was fit to play the final, but he was like, do you want to risk it? And I was like, nope. So I felt like a bit of a fraud. If I'm honest with you, I felt like a fraud that season because I hadn't played any rugby yet. And the only thing that I had again was that I'd played this best tour. I had this best tour in the June for England anyway. So, but I felt like a real fraud going on the plane because my first game of contact was against Papua New Guinea in the opening of the World Cup.
It's not bad.
I was like, anybody got any new shorts? Because mine need changing. But yeah, it was because that was when Leeds Rhinos had kind of said, we're going to trial for you. And I remember talking to Chev Walker, and I was like, Chev, you know that this is my hometown club. You know more than anybody. I need to play in this team. I don't care whether I'm on the bench. I don't care if I'm player 57. But I couldn't do the trials because I wasn't allowed to play. And like I had to be under England instruction, which you're not going to sacrifice for a World Cup. And Chev was like, don't you worry about it. You've already been on our radar. Like,
oh, wow.
I remember it was like, and I remember going to the trials and I was picking up balls and I was picking up cones and I was like, yes, sir. And he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, trying to get in the squad.
I just want to impress.
I just want to be in the Leeds Rhinos squad. And he was like, you're a freak. And I was like, thank you.
So you mentioned you had to pay £300 for that Tour de France. Now that Rugby League World Cup in 2017 was in Australia. Yeah. So, I'm assuming you had to take is it unpaid leave or holiday from work? It's obviously to take that.
Yeah, I'm a teacher, so we don't get any other holiday than the holiday we get, which obviously is great. I love it. Thank you very much before anybody gives me a go. But to take essentially it was 5 weeks. To take 5 weeks off, I had to take it off unpaid. The school at the time was like, because I remember sitting with the head teacher and saying 2 days before my resignation, which was August the 31st. And August the 30th or 29th, we'd gone back into school and I'd sat with ready the paper. And I was like, if I get selected, are you going to grant me the time or not? And he was like, I can't answer. And I was like, if you can't answer, here's the letter. You can't miss an opportunity. And he was like, no, we can, but it'll be completely unpaid. So where we didn't pay anything to go and the hotel and everything whilst we were out there was completely footed for us. And we had the best of the best. Like, don't get me wrong. It was fantastic. Yeah, for 5 weeks, I didn't have a salary. Which obviously you don't feel the effects of until when you come back afterwards, do you? So I'm like, I'm out there living the life of Riley, getting a salary,
thinking it's great.
I'm balling here, yeah. Actually, it was the knock-on effect the month after, which happened to fall in December.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, damn. But I was like massively supported by friends and family and stuff like that, and a couple of sponsorships and stuff to kind of try and make up some kind of, and I'm forever grateful. And like it was an opportunity of a lifetime, and I was willing to do whatever I needed to do to make sure I was out there. And it was crazy. It was. I think back now, and I'm just like, I don't think the girls now would ever do that. It's crazy now to see where the game's gone, which I think is the biggest kind of marker for me. So, but yeah, I've been to a World Cup. Can't complain, can I?
Not many people can say that, Danika.
And then after that, you got to shove it in your brother's face and get onto the Headingley pitch and play as a Rhino, wearing the Rhinos colours. So obviously you were selected with the Rhinos. It was Cuthbertson coaching 2009?
He was the first ever coach.
He was the first one,
yeah. So what was that like? Obviously, then one of the questions I've got written down is, at the moment, from the outside and how I look at the Rhinos, it looks great at the moment. It looks like a really inclusive club. We're talking about Rob Oates, and when he's talking in presentation to sponsors, it's a team of a photo where there's Cruz, there's Courtney Winford Hill, there's people like you, and also from the disability and learning disability team. Yeah. Did it feel inclusive from the off at Rhinos when you became part of that team?
Yeah, weirdly, we were part of the foundation to start off with. So we weren't actually part of the elite business or team or badge or whatever you want to call it. And so, like, my expectations, having been at Bradford Bulls, which you deem quite a big club, we basically had the Bradford Bulls shirt. we didn't train at Bulls. We didn't really have any medical, didn't have anything there. So expectation was quite low. Going to the World Cup kind of stepped it up because we had everything, but that was all supplied from Australia, really. Well, we took a doctor and a physio, but in terms of what you got. So going into Leeds, we walked into Kirkstall training ground. We all got handed a massive rucksack of kit. The first away game was on the first team bus. We had the media who had that. So actually, despite not being part of the actual club, the step up from what I'd had before was just incredible. I just remember just being in awe all the time of just being like, oh my, like we didn't have to draw straws who was going to wash the kit. Because what actually happened is the kit was washed and guess what? It was hung up and placed in plenty of positions for you ready to put on. Honestly, it was one of those that that's the only thing now that I think the younger girls at the time who just got into the lead squad it's like Caitlin Beavers, not so much her, but Caitlin, a 16-year-old, had walked in and got it straight away. And I'm like, you have no idea how special this actually is.
Yeah.
So even though we were part of the foundation, the coaching, so we had Cuspo that came in, which was just phenomenal anyway. As a fan, you're a bit like, oh, God, this is going to be a bit weird. Thinking, how is he going to be? How am I meant to be? Like, and actually was absolutely class, and I would class him as a friend now, which is it was awesome.
Oh, brilliant.
And then we had Ant and Dave Gibbons, who'd both played for Leeds as the assistant coaches, and Leon Crick at the time, he was managing. So we had 3 coaches, a manager, we had a physiotherapist, we had nutritional help, psychological help. We were getting massages and training sessions, and it was literally like, I reckon everything the men get, give or take, but just without the cash. And then for the next year, for us to be so successful and the club to be actually, no, we're going to come under an umbrella, they changed the whole branding inside the building. So not many people get the chance to go inside Kirkstall training ground. But you walk in, there's a gym and there's the changing rooms and there's the massage room, the physio room, and then the wrestle room. But then you go upstairs and there's meeting rooms, analysis rooms, big team rooms and things like that. And in all of the team rooms, it became Leeds Rhinos, men's, women's academy. And that was pre the PDRL and the wheelchair and the LDRL came as well. But I remember just looking and thinking, oh, we're actually part of this club now. It was massive. So I've always felt a part of the club, and despite what some of the teams now are offering little bits of monetary value, nobody offers the actual bulk that Leeds Rhinos offer as part of the Women's Rugby League, and the girls are super special. The amount of attention and I think Lois and I kind of paved the way, both doing our ACLs and early on, made the club realise that actually the women didn't have that much support in terms of medical side and the rehab side of it. So a good thing, but not obviously that I snapped my ACL, but also the fact that things have stepped up, in the way that the girls get treated. So things were reacted to really quickly as well.
You've not had the best of luck of injuries, have you? Because obviously you missed the Challenge Cup final in 2017.
Good reminder.
You missed the grand final in 2018, didn't you, as well, which we lost to Wigan. But you finally got your final.
That's probably why, do you know what I mean? I want there.
That's why they lost together.
I don't mean that.
But then obviously in 2019, it finally turned around. You got your grand final appearance. And obviously we won.
Yeah, I think with the injury side, I'd been really lucky with the fact that I'd torn my ACL. Any normal person would just had it reconstructed. The surgeon took pity and was like, no, I'll sew it. Went out and played a World Cup when it probably wasn't as strong as it should be. And then once I'd done the World Cup, I was a bit like, I'm fit, I must be fine. And went into play and did it properly, essentially. So unlucky, but also wasn't expected. If I look back and think about my rehab and how long it should have taken versus what it did take, it was probably some kind of weird God being like, I'll let you have a World Cup.
You got the World Cup, you're not having both.
Yeah, it was one of that. We're going to make you work for the rest of it now.
So would you see the World Cup was your highlight? If you're going to pick a highlight of your playing career, is the World Cup that, or is there another moment?
No. 2018, walking out that Headingley. I think it's the 27th of May. That's really sad, isn't it?
No, it's not.
And I walked out in that.
You're kind of saying it as a fan, like we would, knowing the day and time. And
yeah. Well, that was it. We walked out. We'd got a standalone game, the first ever game at Headingley for the women. I walked out vice captain behind Lois in a Leeds Rhinos shirt, and I remember just being like, "This is not true." I remember being really I was teary playing for the World Cup. Don't get me wrong. I remember the first ever national anthem and being in the World Cup thinking, bloody hell, I've made it. But then I think being such a fan and knowing that my brothers were such fans as well.
Yeah.
It was like even though it was more like up yours to my brothers, because I was like, yeah, I've done both now.
I've done it.
But it was always like this. It was massive for me because I was such a diehard rugby geek as well. So I think just having that, like the World Cup and stepping out at Headingley, it depends on what day it is, depends on which one I pick, but you've cut, I'm Leeds Rhinos through and through. I'm a geek, all right?
That's fine. That's fine. Don't worry about that.
Playing at Headingley is bigger than the World Cup. That's what you're saying. We get it. We understand.
Yeah.
We understand.
So obviously after that, go on, Lottie.
No, I'd feel exactly the same.
Yeah, I'd be starstruck. I'm not sure I could keep either a smile off a face or tears out my eyes.
I think the World Cup
opportunity to play out.
The World Cup was so pressured. The World Cup was so pressured about getting there. It was more relief that I'd got there, I think.
Yeah.
But whereas when I walked out at Headingley, I thought I was on real form. I was playing some of the best rugby I played. So I was like, because that's the day also I snapped my ACL completely. 65th minute on the 40-metre line. But I remember I was playing. I pretty much played the whole game before anybody took me off anyway. And I just remember playing. I'm at Headingley, and I'm actually having a blinder here, and I don't know if it was like I was on like some weird. Do you know what I mean? Like I was on a different planet to everybody else. I was just floating around and throwing balls around. I don't pass a ball. I was assisted 3 tries. You know what I mean? I was like, here I am. Danika, the super centre. But yeah, that's definitely up there.
Obviously, since retirement, then you've moved into punditry now. A media career has come. How did that come about then, moving into that media career side? Was that planned? During the enjoy the playing career, you thought I want to continue in rugby? Because I think, are you coaching under 16s women at the moment, right?
I was, but I've stepped away from that just because of school. Like I've got a real job, and coaching is unfortunately still not paid. So I had to go at the time, and I work in alternative provision, so I work a lot with social services and kids in care. So it's not just an 8 till 3 teaching job, unfortunately. So that kind of has taken a little of a backseat at the minute. But no, this punditry thing, this crazy media is still massively overwhelming, and I'm taking every opportunity in my stride at the minute and just trying to soak it up. But it was 2018 it was 2018, and I did the Lord Taverners event, and it was basically a balloon debate. And Dave Parkin got in contact. He was like, "Oh, I've heard you played rugby," and basically I was the token woman. So there was me, Guy Mowbray, the football commentator, Ryan Sidebottom, the cricketer. Yeah, and we were I was at the Queen's Hotel in front of 1,200 cricket men, basically businessmen. And what you had to do is you had to speak about a hero of your choice from your sport. But it couldn't be that like cheesy, like, oh my God, they're so motivational and this, that, and the other. It had to be stories. So Guy Mowbray comes in, talks about Gaza, Paul Gascoigne. And I was like, cool. Ryan Sidebottom comes in, Darren Gough.
Yeah.
I'm like, right, cool. Jimmy Lowes. I went with Jimmy Lowes. Just because I knew him, and he played at West Park a bit as well, and I knew the family really well. And I basically texted him saying, I need some of your sordid stories.
Yeah, give me some.
Basically entertain the crowds. And then I'd not looked at the crowd because there was 1,200, pretty much 1,200 people there. And I was like, what am I doing here? I think my opening line was like, thank you for inviting me. I just think I'm the token diversity gesture here. I went in with a few like misconceptions of the women's game. And at the halftime break, like you went off, and then there was meals in between. And at halftime, Barry McDermott, Adrian Morley, and Earl Crabtree walked up to me and said, well done. And I was like, huh? What? And I didn't have any clue that A, they were going to be there, or B, that I could even see, like, I didn't see anybody because I was in that was my first ever public speaking event. And I was like, oh my God.
I nearly got ran over by Earl Crabtree. Random story.
And you're like, take me, do it.
2013 World Cup finals, walking towards Old Trafford down this side street, and this big Range Rover comes. I looked at it, I had to dodge out of the way. I looked at Earl Crabtree.
Yeah. But that was it. That was my first thing. And then at the end, Barry McDermott was like, do you want to come for some beers at the end? It was a Wednesday night. I had school the next day, and there I am at 3:00 in the morning having espresso martinis with Barry McDermott. I was like, Suffered the next day a little bit, but it was well worth it. And then from there, James Dayton, there was that International Women's Day in 2019. Again, Sky had got Jodie Cunningham on. James Dayton had got me on a BBC Radio Leeds. And I'm not saying it was a token gesture, but it was International Women's Day. He heard that I could speak and could kind of hold myself together. So I commentated at Hull FC with him on a Leeds game, and I was like, what'd you do? Like, there was no training. He just was like, when I stopped talking, fill in the blanks and just summarise what's happened. And I was like, just like that, right? Just like that.
Sounds
just live on radio.
And then I remember Barry ringing me. Barry messaged me on Twitter or something, said, what's your number? So I sent him my number because Barry asked for my number, so I sent him it.
Of course you do.
Yeah. I remember ringing me, and he was like giving me loads of advice. Not advice as such, but just like, you need to remember you know the game. You need to remember you know what's happened to get that try. And he taught me through what summarising was. And we're on the phone for about 45 minutes. Wow. And he said some really quite prolific things to me. Not that they're private, but I think they're quite cheesy. And if I'd probably revealed them, but some real kind of like thought-provoking, really deep, non-Barry McDermott style.
Really?
Yeah. And I remember being not emotional, but I was like, he was just chatting to me like a pal. And I was like, I've met him once. I managed to hold myself together. I wasn't a diehard and didn't fangirl him. But now he's ringing me to say, you'll be fine. You've absolutely got this. You smashed it. If you can do it live in front of so many people, you'll be fine. And that was kind of the start. And then James Dayton had me on at the end of that 2018 to run my own women's rugby league show for an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. He'd written it all for me. And like, he'd not written it, but he'd like filled in all the gaps and stuff for it.
Yeah.
We've got all women guests on. It made me pick all my own music. And then it must have been 2019 because then COVID happened and we were out of it. And then we'd won the final. I'd been on Look North with Tanya Arnold. And she was like, I thought you were really great. What's your number? I've got this women in sport conference. And it was all kind of like, when they talk to you about, it's not about what you know, it's who you know. Like literally this business is crazy because she was like, oh, basically you can string a sentence together. I've got this women in sport conference I need to get somebody for. So I went to women's sport conference. And then from there, she got me on the Super League show a couple of times. Yeah. And then when the season started back, she was like, oh, come and be on Look North. I'll have you at Headingley as my Look North's kind of guest. I was like, all right, fine. And then, from there, I did a bit more summarising, did some of the Our League stuff. But I was doing like a lot of the men's. I've done very little women's stuff. And it's been mostly the men's stuff. So I did Our League and I did The Sportsman. And then I did like BBC 5 Live with Dave Woods.
Dave Woods.
Oh, what a guy. What an absolute guy. And it's kind of spiraled from there. And then I did the All-Stars game a couple of years ago when it came back with the women. Did the co-concept with John Wells, who every time I've worked with anybody, they've been absolutely awesome to learn from. And then, it's kind of spiraled from there. Then got a phone call from Joe Gardner from Channel 4 in January this year. And the rest is a real massive snowball that is just picking momentum. And I'm still riding a real wave. Like, I cannot tell you. People are like, oh, this is all you do now. And I'm like, yes, but every single time I'm asked to do something, it's like, blows my mind. Blows my mind every time still. So, busy couple of months coming up, which is awesome. But, I'm absolutely, massively grateful for it. And I'm still in a question. It's a bit of that imposter syndrome. That's the right word. Yeah. It's imposter syndrome. Because I listened to, Sam Tompkins doing analysis or John Wilkin, and I'm just like, I don't speak like that. I don't analyse like that. I'm not technical. I'm quite basic, but
you do deserve to be there, though. Your whole career, everything you've achieved. So, although you do say like imposter syndrome, you are very much deserving to be there. You are throughout your career and things. Just on Channel 4, a bit of insider info. If we can, are Channel 4 enjoying it? Are they enjoying covering Rugby League? They are. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, like I love working for BBC because I'll be forever grateful for Tanya and for the BBC and everything they've done. And like I've just filmed the Super League show on Monday. Was it Monday that we did? Yeah, I don't even know what day it is. And I love working. I love working for any of them. It's not, but you walk to Channel 4 and there's a different air completely, and
Right.
it's not casual and it's not unprofessional by any means. But there's a different air. Like everyone loves their job there. Everyone loves what they're doing. Like we kind of meet in the trailer at the end, and everyone's like, "Yeah, wicked show." This and every time we do a show, it's like the first one.
Oh wow!
So yeah, it's just a really nice air.
Do you feel that though? Like Channel 4, I mean, personally, from my perspective, it has been really, really refreshing. I think the Sky coverage has been as good, and it has been there for a long, long time. But I think Channel 4 have really shown how to do it differently, and have really put the foot in the door. And we've had a lot when we talked about on here. A lot of us want Channel 4 to be picking up more games next year.
That was kind of my next question. Do you think that they might dabble and try and get some more games in future than what they've currently got?
Completely honest with you, like I get a text saying, "Are you free on the 10th or the 17th?" And I'm like, "Yep," and that's as far ahead as I'm.
Right.
But I know that they're commissioned for 2 years. I think it's 10 games each season, so I don't know if that's going to grow now with the IMG. Like I'm assuming because it's already set, and we go off. I say we, like I work for Channel 4 all the time.
Well, you do?
Go off. Yeah, I know I was meant to do one appearance, and here I am doing the last few as well. I'm forever grateful. Thank you very much. It's been best. But we wait for Sky to pick their game.
Yeah.
Before Channel 4 can pick that. So it's led by Sky and what games they want to pick up. So we split in the playoffs. So Sky get the first playoff and we get the second one. They get the first semi, we get the second semi. And then they are broadcasting the final. But I think we're doing like a roundup overview type of show. Yeah. But I don't know if it's a roundup of the season or if it's just the highlight type of thing. So I don't know I don't know what's in the pipework for next season. I don't know what the pipework is. Obviously, with IMG taking over the Super League and further on, I don't know if that's going to change things. But I don't think it is refreshing and it feels super refreshing. But I think the difference just is their promos and their VTs are very exciting, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think in terms of
their
production
promos for the game, even the Cass one, even the Castleford one was good.
Yeah.
I don't like saying that. Even the Castleford one were good.
But I think that also comes down to like Adam Hills and Helen Skelton. Like I am forever grateful forever. I've worked with Brian now and Dave and Tanya, and I've worked with them all. I don't know.
You worked with them all.
Yeah, and you see the negativity about this, that, and the other. Well, I don't have that or see that because I learn from every single one of them.
Yeah.
But Adam Hills makes a real point of it doesn't profess to be, a professional about rugby league. He's just a fan. But what he does do is he researches the cities before he goes, which I think helps his delivery of stuff. So he knows that Rick Astley was from Hull, or that and he really tries to kind of make it personal to that city that we're in, which I think is the big difference, because you get that feeling that he actually cares about where he is and what he's doing. So I think that's a slight difference, and there's a little bit more jovial, I think, on Channel 4. We've got a little bit more leniency to be a little bit ad hoc and a bit more off the cuff. Which
that kind of comes across as you're watching it, that you can, because like on other channels it can be a bit professional. I'm not saying you are, but you can tell on Channel 4 you're having more fun. It's more of a fun element to it, which is, I think, refreshing. I think since Channel 4 have come in this year, I just think I think the viewing figures have reflected that as well. People are really
it's been crazy. I think with the BBC and Sky, though, their routine's probably the wrong word, but it's such a process now that you just go in and you do it. And I'm sure that should Channel 4 get loads more, it will be the same. But I actually think that Adam's just as giddy as I am when it comes to rugby. When Helen maybe wouldn't have done the job prior to signing, had she known things this year might have gone a little bit differently. But they're not diehard rugby fans, which kind of sometimes walk in and Helen will go, right, I've been busy on, she's not at Strictly yet, but whenever she might be Strictly, I've been busy with filming on the farm. What am I doing? And it's kind of the air of like, and Ian Proctor, who's a legend of rugby league, who's got the knowledge of every stat under the sun.
Oh yeah, unbelievable knowledge, yeah. He'll
come in and he'll just laugh because Adam does do his research, but Helen's a bit like, I know it's this, I know they've played this, but what really should I ask? And I'm like, I'm advising Helen Skelton on what to do. But it's that real, nobody's afraid to not know, if that makes sense. Whereas I walk into Sky and BBC and there's that feeling of everybody knows what they're doing because everyone's so into rugby. And it's not that they don't want to ask, it's that they don't need to. And I think that's the slight difference in the sense that it's a little bit more, not jovial, but yeah, it's not unprofessional.
It makes it more
just
open for the viewers, though, because if sometimes, if we want the game to be open, we want to attract new people. We don't want it all be driven down to the minuscule bit about rugby league. We want people watching it just to enjoy it.
Well, that's what I think Channel 4 is trying to do. There's been a little bit of it is refreshing, and I think it's really refreshing. And then you've got people go, there's nothing different. You're like, but we're just trying to make it more for the people. So we will spend longer explaining what a 40-20 is, or we might spend longer explaining why a penalty try was a penalty try rather than just talk about it, move on.
Yeah. Well, you've got a lot of new
job than the refs.
Well, you've got a lot of new viewers on Channel 4, so I feel you have to kind of explain for those people who are perhaps channel hopping. And just going, oh, wow, this is Leeds versus Warrington. And then perhaps they're new to the game. So the fact that you do explain things, it's key to them, really. It's trying to keep them in the game, isn't it? So I think it's a really good idea. Have Channel 4 shown any interest in the women's game, women's side of things?
I wouldn't know. Like, we talk about it in terms of in the trailer and stuff, but I'll be honest with you, I get a call sheet with about 100 names on it. I don't know what they do or what goes on. I literally walk in, I get my face painted for me, I get my hair made, I get fed and watered, I get to watch some rugby, and I get paid for it.
And you get paid.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I am, and I'm not hiding anything. I don't mean to be that oblivious, but literally, I walk in every time. I'm like, okay, cool. And then some people going, hi, Danika, hi. And I'm like, you get a couple of the same makeup artists, and we're both like, who's that? And we go through the call sheet. It was like, oh, that's the boss. Hi.
Hello.
And literally, that's how every time I walk in, I'm just in this little Cloud9 bubble. So
I do want to talk about the women's game, but we've got quite a lot of questions about that in the mailbag. So before we do the mailbag, Eddie, do you want to do your teammate thing?
Yes, I've got a couple of teammate questions, if that's all right for you.
I think we need to include fellow pundits in this as well that you've come across, as well as players you've played with. I think we've got to put some pundits into this as well, I think.
Yes, so teammates, who's the most boring teammate you've ever had?
Oh, most boring?
Yeah.
Barry.
Danielle Anderson. She doesn't drink. She knows everything about rugby there is to know about rugby. She sports Wakefield and she's die-hard for a training, which I completely respect. But I'm like, have a pint, Danny. Come on.
I'll get this down, yeah?
Yeah. No, she's absolutely dedicated to the cause and I rate her for it, but boring.
Who's the funniest teammate you've ever had?
Oh, that's a tough call because I've had a few. Shah Booth, who's now in Australia. I don't think she's funny. I think she's just stupid. It's combinations of people. So Kirsty Maroney and Beth Sutcliffe together at England. Carnage. And probably Tash Gaines.
Yeah.
There's a few. I'm not going to pick one. I do what I want.
Who's the toughest you've played against?
Apart from the World Cup people, Andrea Dobson. Andrea Dobson will play to the letter of the law and with an inch of the referee's whistle. Yeah. And I reckon is the person I feared the most playing against and was most grateful when she was by my side. Yeah. And still to stay will forever be probably the best player I've ever had the opportunity to play with.
Who's... Oh, go on. You got something to read?
Oh, just saying awesome.
Oh, yeah. Who's the most skillful you've ever played with?
Lois Forsell.
Yeah.
I reckon.
Good current coach.
Yeah, but I reckon she would have been Woman of Steel. She would have been in that World Cup top squad. She would have been in the World Cup squad now. Her knowledge, her skill, her execution, and just her vision is just ridiculous. I've never, ever... She's angry, though. She gets angry.
Is that like a good coach?
Well, I mean, on the field she does, but not so much as a cat. Well, sometimes.
The best trainer you've ever had teammate with? Best trainer?
Lois Forsell.
Again? Wow.
Diehard. Absolute diehard. And we'll go to the gym in the morning before we do extras on a field on an evening. Probably her and, I'm just trying to think of the World Cup girls, but nobody comes anywhere near. I got fit because of Lois.
Yeah.
So yeah, was an absolute, and I think her expectations have taken into a coaching. That's what her expectations are. How she trained.
How she trained? Yeah, she's now applying that with a coaching.
Yeah.
What about the biggest moaner?
Sophie Robinson, without a shadow of a doubt, she whinges.
Some of these answers are so quick.
Yeah, Sophie Robinson by far.
I think we need to get Sophie on now to see if we can get
Honestly,
her to respond to that.
Yeah, and she's hilarious. And all she ever whinges about is being hungry.
Really? Being hungry? Just that specific? Just
literally the skinniest person on the field and eats the most.
And always hungry.
Oh, I hate people.
But is the worst cook.
Is the worst cook.
Yeah.
What about the tightest teammate you've ever had who's been tight on the purse strings?
Oh, there's my list as long as my arm.
Really?
All of them. Yeah. Good God. The amount of time they say, can you buy me a pint? Can you lend me $5? And I'm like, what the heck? You've got it. You just don't want to. All the youngsters that'll come in, anybody that came in and was like, oh, we want to come out, but we're students. And every time I'd be like, I was all for it. Everyone out. I'll just get you all a drink. Yeah, I reckon. I'd say 99% of women's rugby league players.
Yeah.
I mean, this also does highlight the fact that you're not paid as a player in the women's group. But we just highlight that as well, which we'll talk about later.
So just on that then, who was the biggest drinker? Who could really take it back?
I think it's the person on this call.
I do.
Driven by some of these answers.
Apart from me.
Who was the second?
Sharbuth or Menina Spur.
Always one of the last ones standing.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. What's the best ground you've ever played at, would you say?
Apart from Headingley.
Yeah.
Well, I played all the World Cup games were based out of Cronulla Sharks, which was just incredible. So been really fortunate to, I've travelled quite a bit with it. But yeah, I played at Twickenham when I played Rugby Union.
I bet that was special.
Yeah, so I think Twickenham and Headingley are definitely up there because as a Rugby Union player, that's like hallowed turf, isn't it? That's headquarters. And then there's a Leeds Rhinos fan. So one from each code. Twickenham for Union and Headingley for Leeds.
Correct answer. And then last one from me. Who was your rugby league hero growing up? Did you have one or two?
Good old Bazza.
Bally. Also, then he was your hero, and now you're friends with him.
He's really thrown himself in there, hasn't he? Already, I've seen that.
Yeah, he's already. I've already seen.
Yeah, and he knows it as well, which is the worst thing ever. I think I once said it, and ever since then he was like. And every time, like I remember, I did Sky a few weeks ago for the England Wolf, and he walked in, and I was like, "Hi," and he was like, and Brian Kine just went, "Selfies, selfie friends." I was like, "Fine." I got my phone and I took us out. I was like, "Yeah, and what?" But I just remember him, and I don't particularly remember him. I just remember him being a big biff. Like I just remember going as a kid and thinking, he does not care. Like all I remember is his fighting. I don't remember many of his runs or his actual playing. I just remember him being rock hard.
Before we had him on here, I watched his Hall of Fame video when he got into the Hall of Fame at Rhinos. And I think there's about a 10-second clip of that try he scored from what he says was the full length of the pitch.
What he says is the full length in the 99 Cup final.
Yeah. And then the rest of it was just him having a scrap.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, he's the nicest person off the field I think I've ever met. But yeah, I just remember his name. I think when I was a kid, he was the first player I met. So when you get attached, don't you, that way as a youngster?
Oh yeah, massively, yeah.
And then he was a forward as well, so he was like ideal, all in one.
Perfect. Let's go into the mailbag, Reese. Some of our listeners' questions.
So I want to pick up some of the sort of questions first, more about the women's game in general. But before we do that, kind of in line with the teammates as well. You may have seen that we started the Camp Smith Appreciation Society, ended up getting badged and all that sort of stuff. Who in the current women's Rhinos team deserves an Appreciation Society badge or something along that ilk?
Apart from Courtney Winfield Hill.
Yeah.
That's a classic. That's a cliche. So apart from that, it's Hannah Butcher.
Hannah Butcher.
Really?
And it's called the Butcher's Budweiser Appreciation Club.
The Butcher's Budweiser. Is that actually a thing already?
No, she drinks a crate of Budweiser after a game.
Wow, whole crate.
She can sub a Budweiser or two.
Zed, be creative. We want one now. We've had
Honestly,
a Butcher.
I need to get a Bud. Yeah, she absolutely
She needs a sponsorship.
Yeah, she does. She's low key. She keeps off the radar. She grafts on the field, but she's funny and she can drink. She's not the best drinker, but she'll go home and sit with her fiance and drink, just sit on the sofa drinking in or the hot tub or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, loves to create a Bud, that one.
Brilliant. Right, so some of the just questions now general on the women game. So there's one from Lloyd's View, and he's asked, do you look at some of the younger talent coming through in the women's game now and be shocked at how much the women's game has developed?
Yeah, scary. Really scary. It's one of the reasons I kind of retired. I saw the girls coming through and I just think their speed, their skill, their knowledge and their dedication, because the community game's been much better set up for them coming through. They've been playing much longer. You know, some of them have been playing probably as long as I have, but just from a younger age. So, your likes of Chloe Kerrigan and Ellie Allroyd and Ellie Frayne, who all came up as forwards. I just think they've really, that real structure has changed. Like, you've not got big, biffy forwards anymore. It's more, they're big and they're strong, but there's more agility. So, yeah, there's the amount the game has grown and the girls coming through is just ridiculous. And I could do the real, like, egotistical thing and be like, the noble thing, sorry, and be like, yeah, I'm going to make way for these. But actually what it is, my ego is going to be bruised by being dropped by a load of 18-year-old girls. So,
having watched some of the games this year, like Georgia Roche and Fran Goldthorpe, the skill.
What gives Georgia Roche the right at 20 years old to be that knowledgeable and skillful with rugby?
Yeah,
like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's wicked. It's absolutely awesome, but.
Yeah, I mean, we've likened Fran to almost like the women's team equivalent of Harry Newman.
Yeah.
The real superstar.
Incredibly talented.
They both are, There's some superstars in that side.
Duncan's asked, what are your future hopes and aspirations for the women's game?
I think, obviously, ultimately, you want it to go pro.
Absolutely, yeah.
But that, I think, not to be... Everyone's like, oh, there should be this, should be that. We need this steady profile. If we were to go pro straight away, the pressure that would get put on the girls would just not be sustainable. So it does need to be steady and progressive. And we start this World Cup, they'll get a participation fee. So for the 3 weeks that they're off, they're going to be paid. I don't know how much, but it's better than where it was. Some of the girls are getting match day fees or they're getting expenses now and stuff. So the game is growing. And listen, the men's game's not the richest game we've got in the world. And it took them 40 odd years to go pro. So I don't want it to take 40 years and I don't think it will. But we're progressively moving a lot quicker than men did. And it's in time for them to be professional would be the best option. To see the women's football, Super League or Premiership, whatever it is, and they're all pro now. And some of their contracts are only 20 grand, which is for a 17-year-old girl. Massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
But ultimately, I'd love to see it go pro, and then we can finally start to match Australia.
Yeah, we were talking to Rob Oates about it, and he was saying that they want to do it, but it has to be a league thing. It can't just be one club that does it because it would just be unfair.
Yeah.
We really hope that just try forward. And sort of on a similar ilk, where do you see women's rugby league in 10 years' time?
Well, I think it really needs to come on. Obviously, the professional side of it would be ideal. If you're pro in 10 years, wicked. But before that, the RFL are really trying to kind of figure a structure out for the women. And we haven't had a consistent structure yet in terms of the leagues and how it's worked. Like this year, breaking it off into two and not having these transfers mid-season and like depleting clubs and stuff. So we need to bring the women's game in line with the men's in terms of all of the rules, all of the structure, the transfer windows. There are agents out there asking, they don't want monetary, they just want to help and advise. So there are people that want into, and it's few and far between, but it's a start. And we just need to make sure that the women's game is in line with it, and then it will be able to go pro safely, if that makes sense.
Fantastic. So I think that's sort of the questions on the women's game. There is one question that I think I do want to ask, and I hope you don't mind me asking it. But obviously, it's not a perfect world, and there are still people out there that will say in my opinion, stupid and silly things. We've been asked by Ginny, how do you cope with the haters or the misogynists that unfortunately are still out there?
It comes back to that comment the other day, doesn't it? That kind of stirred up a little bit of, and for me personally, I kind of laugh it off because I am a lot older and I don't deal with it, and I shouldn't have to put up with it. But I guess I can accept it a lot more. So for me personally, it's kind of laughable. It's annoying in a sense of like, what's the point?
Yeah.
There's no point for you to waste your time to make that effort. You're just a div. But like I did the other day, I made a comment, I retweeted something, and I just let Twitter go on it. And that's a little bit savage in the sense that I've kind of stirred the pot, haven't I? I've just got the spoon and stirred it. But for every hate you get, the support you get is immeasurable, and it's incredible. And I think there will always, always, always be people that are even 17, 18, 19-year-olds that don't like women that do sport, men's sport, whatever you want to brand it as. And it's about just, you're never going to eradicate, you're not going to stop it. It's like all of the movement when it comes to racism and xenophobia and all of this. It's never going to go away. Yeah. It's just about, Helen Skelton once told me, she was like, you're going to waste your breath. You're going to waste yourself. You're going to waste 10 minutes of your time reading something like that and reacting to it. It will always be there. And if you're having a bad day and you want to go find it, search your name up. And there'll be loads of comments that come up about you or about rugby and how you should be in the kitchen hoovering. And she said, but, you either read the good or you don't read it all. But I think it speaks volumes, isn't it? The crowds that are coming in, the publicity it's getting, the coverage it's getting. Yeah. They're just going to be drowned out like it's deaf ears, because it's not because that one person has said, I don't like women breaking their noses. I've never broken my nose in the whole time I played rugby. So it's not my nose that makes me not look, that makes me ugly. It's my face. So get over it.
We talked about it off air, and we were kind of annoyed, obviously, that had happened, but at the same time, we were really pleased and your response. But again, all the responses that came out of it as well. And, for the one, in this instance, man that made that comment, there was 20, 25 men that had commented back in support. So, so...
But if you look through that thread, there's Olympians and Paralympians. There's so many different people that have commented on it. You're just like, for me, like I did stir the pot, but actually, for what it's done is it's given women's rugby a bit of a platform. At the minute we're at that stage where there isn't any bad publicity at the minute for us.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
So on to a bit more of a lighter question, and thank you for obviously responding to that really open and honestly. Really appreciate it. On to your selfie, mate. Mr. Barry McDermott. He has asked, who is your role model on and off the pitch? And do you think he should get a cut of your earnings?
And he thinks I earn more than he does.
Apparently, yeah.
I know how much Sky Sports pay, and you're on it a lot more than I am.
He was saying 50% is the going rate. I know you replied saying both ways, but...
Yeah, you can have it. Take a bit of a go cut as well. What a guy. What an absolute guy. And, he's obviously been a massive fan of his when he was playing. He don't play anymore, so I'm not anymore. Barry, and I've met so many more pundits and commentators. Dave Woods is by far one of the greatest commentators I've ever worked alongside, or had the privilege of working alongside. Yeah. But, yeah, there's... I've got so many
role models at all other than Barry?
Well, yeah, like, for me, I think there's a lot of the women, like Andrea Dobson I've spoken about, who... She did worked wonders for me when I first got into the England squad, and I had a lot of trouble coming into the England squad because I'd come from at the time, women's rugby was so much smaller. And I'm not going to say incestuous because it wasn't, but everyone did know everybody. So that's the only real word I can use for it. And the amount of hate I got coming in as literally as a rah-rah. And for 2 years, the only reason I was in the England squad is because I slept with the England coach, apparently. Oh. And that came from rugby league players. That came from women's players. The only reason that you could possibly be in the squad because you've come from nowhere is by sleeping with somebody. And she was the one person that kind of, A, I rated as a player anyway, but B was like, have you? And I was like, well, of course not. She was like, okay, then. You haven't. So, crack on. And she's just a phenomenal player and a phenomenal person. So she's just a great all-rounder. And I've been able to kind of repay the favour by getting her on some of the BBC stuff with me, so it was nice.
Nice.
Brilliant. Loyner's typically always asking 3 questions at once, and I'm going to pick up on something you mentioned earlier because he must know about Sophie Robinson's eating habits as well. But he's asked, where is the best food place that Sophie has recommended you?
Well, Sophie has her own Instagram page called Food with Sophie.
Really?
That's why Loyner.
Yeah.
That's why he knows. Yeah.
So she goes around trialing places and got to the point where places have asked her to come down and trial now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
It's called Food
to be
by
fair,
Sophie.
yeah, it's on Instagram. Food by Sophie or Food with Sophie. It's one or the other.
I'll look now. Let's see. But yeah, what's the best place she's recommended so far?
Well, it's not so much best, but we and Sophie had a habit of often every Thursday going to Mannahatta in Headingley or Box and getting 50% off every Thursday. So I mean, we could get 2 meals for one because you're only paying for one, so we get 2 meals each.
Genius.
And then just So she's gone to Meat Stack in Leeds and said it's the best burger she's ever had, and she was a Fat Hippo.
The best burger she's ever had.
Better than Fat Hippo.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where was that? Sorry, Meat Stack
In Leeds, the one that's near the
Trinity.
It's near the train station. I know it's near the train station somewhere, but yeah, she's just said today that's the best burger she's ever had.
That's a bold statement. I'm gonna have to go and try one.
Well, I know, but yeah, she has tried a few.
Mm.
She's tried a few, so yeah. But I think me and Sophie generally do cheap and cheerful.
Yeah.
And there's some more food questions because there's always food questions on here.
There are always food questions on this podcast.
Duncan's asking, what's your normal meal the night before? I'm assuming it means the night before a game. So what's your normal meal the night before a game?
Oh, the worst. I used to have the worst game diet, but I used to have exactly the same one every single time. The girls used to, what did Sophie call it? Council estate breakfast. So the night before, I'd always have spinach and ricotta, stuffed tortellini with mascarpone and steak. Every night before. The morning of, do you know those Heinz spaghetti hoops with sausages in?
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to say this, but the sausages.
Yeah, I had them as a kid.
The sausages are tits and arseholes, aren't they? The sausages are just the leftover meat.
Yeah.
So I'd have a can of spaghetti hoops and sausages on 2 thick slices of white bread and 2 boiled eggs. She was like, "You got that pauper's council estate breakfast again?" Bear in mind, I grew up on a council estate, so I can say that. But I used to send her a picture every Sunday morning or every game day morning. I'd send it, and if we had a nighttime game, now you threw me out there. If you broke my schedule, I couldn't go up.
And the last food question is from Adam Reese, who's saying, "What's your favourite cheese?"
Why do you have to pick one?
I don't know. I mean, you'll have to ask Adam back, but he's
Adam,
if you're good at
cheese is
one
like
cheese.
I can't. That makes me sweat a little bit. I'd have to go. Would I go brie or camembert or gorgonzola? Oh, it's a tough one.
All the
That's
cheese.
a top 3.
All the cheese.
Yeah, anything that's got cheese in it for me is a winner.
It's a winner.
I'm slightly dairy intolerant. So the next day, don't come anywhere near me, but I'll persevere.
And there's been a couple of questions about obviously you moving into the media. Duncan was asking about any media training, but we've talked about that. His
winging it.
Part of that, just winging it.
Winging it, Duncan.
Yeah. 4020 Live asked, do you spend more time getting ready to be on the telly or when you're getting ready to play?
They know that question.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
It was a winged face after this question.
So basically, the girls in the rugby league, I know the men do it. So the men know they're on Sky. The men get a fresh fade. The men shave their legs. The men look good for Sky Sports. The women will look good for every game. So you get your eyebrows dyed, your eyelashes, your fake eyelashes on.
Yeah.
You paint your nails. Obviously, they'll be short. You'll fake tan. You look good, play good. That was the rule. So I personally probably spent longer. I would always play in a full face of makeup. So I would take long getting ready to go play because I would personally, for this media lark, I rock up out the shower, my hair's still wet, I've got nothing on my face, and somebody does it for me. So technically, I spend longer getting ready when I was playing because I had to do it, whereas now I just sit there like this.
Just like this in just...
Yeah, honestly, it is dreamy. Which girl doesn't want the face, hair and makeup doing? So yeah, probably playing.
Fair enough. And then I think we've got three more questions, I think. Loina's last question is, what do you think England's chances are at the World Cup? I'm assuming men's and women for this one.
Good question.
The women's is they're going to have a tough ask on their hands. Just because the NRL at the minute is looking, the NRLW.
Yeah.
I've been watching some of the games and I'm blown away. And the new talent that's come up into the Australia as well. And you've not just got Australians playing there, you've got the Kiwis playing there, and now you've got Papua New Guinea girls flying over to play there. So I think, had I not seen the last couple of weeks of the girls playing, I would have said definitely a semi-final place for sure. But pushing into that final, I think, will definitely be a tough ask. And they've got a couple of big injuries of England at the minute that are hit and miss as making it back. So Georgia Roach got injured last week playing for Leeds, which has ruled her out for the rest of Leeds' season. And I don't know if she's going to have much time to get fit and get ready, which is a massive blow because her and Courtney in the halves. I'm going to say England women will definitely get to a semi-final. England men, it depends.
Well, they're playing in the famous blue and white group, which, because everyone's wearing blue and white in that group. So you won't be able to tell each team apart anyway.
Should I ask you what your thoughts are on that new kit?
I bloody hate that new kit.
No, we don't like it. We when it was released, we kind of pulled it apart.
Away, isn't it?
No, it's the white shirt, the red cross for me.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's a brand. It's it's visual. It's got the classic. I don't know why they've turned away from it. And
for me, it's a bit like when Leeds playing pink.
Oh, we love the pink kit on here.
We win wearing that kit, apart from last weekend.
Apart from when we lose.
Yeah, but no, I think the men's. It just depends on what squad he picks for the men, doesn't it? Because he's not had a consistent squad there, and the options and the injuries now that have racked up. I'm going to go. Both England teams are going to at least make a semi.
I'm not so sure about the men's. I don't know.
I think the men's are out in the quarters.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I don't know I'm trying to be optimistic, aren't I? It should be nice. If you want my honest opinion, get out of the pool stages, I'll be happy.
Yeah, that's right.
Ian was asking, in 20 years' time, when Leeds beat the Papua New Guinea Hunters in Belgrade to win the World Club Challenge, you'll be rightly celebrated as being part of the first ever generation of the Women's Super League Rhinos. So Ian says thank you. His question was, how do you want to be remembered, and in what pose will your sculpture be?
Imagine. I can't probably tell you what pose my sculpture would actually be in because it's a bit rude, but oh, no way. Can you imagine?
So answer the first question. How do you want to be remembered?
I really hope that I've made an effect in terms of growing the game. And I really hope that I've helped build the women's game, not just on the field, but off it, like getting even when I do the punditry, I know that I'm not just getting myself a job and speaking for a woman in sport. I'm actually speaking on behalf of, I sometimes feel like I'm representing the women, and I want the women to always look good and to sound like we actually know what we're on about. Because I think that for future, I wouldn't always do the media, or there'll be somebody new that comes along that's a very fickle kind of business. And I just hope that I'm doing a good enough job on that side to make sure that the women are respected. And I hope that I've helped build and develop, the women's game and pushed it forward. I've seen that transitional phase now, and I just hope that it keeps growing, and that hopefully maybe in 20 years' time, I'll be remembered as one of the originals of the Super League, which would just be phenomenal. To even be remembered for any of it would be honestly unbelievable. I came into it really late in my career, and if I was 10 years younger, there's no doubt I'd be fighting for a World Cup spot now. But yeah, I've had the best experience, and any kind of help developing and grow that game I'd be happy with that.
Awesome. I can certainly say you've definitely made an infant so far. But
absolutely.
Let's hope the ball keeps rolling. So last question, and it kind of comes from me. Some of my favourite moments ahead of this year has been when we've done the double headers with the women. The women are coming to the South Stand, and you're seeing young girls getting photos and autographs with the women's team. What would your message be to the young women that are potentially interested in rugby league? How do they get into the game? Where can they go to maybe start and get interested in the game and play it?
You've just got to do it. Like, I think, they started at school now much younger. There's so many clubs around Leeds. Like every Super League has like a bit of a foundation link, and it's always that cliche thing of like get in contact and speak to somebody, but don't speak to the girls on the rugby field. Ask the girls when they started playing, and speak to them and get them to, because for every girl that's on that pitch that a girl wants to be or talk to, they're all community coaches in the stand with a group of girls that they're bringing along to watch. So the best thing to do is, I say, skip the middleman. And if you have an opportunity to speak to any girls, and believe you me, when people want pictures or they want to speak to the girls, for them, it's still a massively special honour. And it's so crazy to think that anybody wants to speak to them. I remember turning up at the grand final last year and somebody had my name on their shirt. And I just cried. I was like, what? Like, this is such an incredible, such an important job. And the girls not only want to grow the game and play rugby, but they want to make sure that they are good role models for these girls coming forward. Because it's still it's massive, such a massive honour. But just speak to the rugby girls, speak to them. Every single one of them will take time to speak to you. And they will be able to point you to a coach in the stand or give you the name of their club or anywhere nearby. But just keep getting down and speaking to them. And you'll definitely be on that field sometime soon, because it's just growing. Such a massive rate.
Brilliant. You've had a fantastic career playing. You're doing great work now in the media side of things. Has anyone ever contacted you? Have you ever thought about kind of releasing a book or something along those lines?
There was one in the process.
All right.
There was one in the process. It's like a bit of a back burner at the minute. But yeah, I have. I think it's a really weird concept. It was quite overwhelming. So we were in the talks and we were in the process of doing it, and the chapters were being written and done. And then, if I'm honest with you, I got sent a kind of a draft of it. And I'm quite, believe it or not, despite what I put on social media, my backstory is quite a private one.
Right.
Or not private, not that I would never not say it, but I just... You have this kind of, you automatically have this kind of pretense, or this, people assume that you're this person, don't they? And I'm a typical Leeds council estate girl that didn't come from a particular affluent family in the slightest, and had 3 brothers and the typical breakup in a family and stuff. And I just think it's quite a weird concept to read that. It's really weird. It's like, not counselling, because that's not the right word, but it's a bit like, ooh. A, would anybody even bother want to read it?
I think so. I think they would.
Yeah.
Really do.
It's a crazy... it was a bit overwhelming, if I'm honest with you, but it's like a... Yeah, there's an idea. I know that there's a girl, Shani Crowell from St. Helens, has got one coming out, but it's a really weird concept, and I think once I get over the fear... get over the fear, then... Yeah, for sure.
Brilliant. Danika, thanks a lot. What a fantastic,
you guys.
Fantastic guest you've been. Can't thank you enough. Thanks a lot, Reese, for your questions, reading the mailbag. And thanks, everybody, for listening. See you next time. Speak soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.